Look closely at the carriers of that era. They were simple machines, steel boxes covered in wood, launching unguided bombs into the wind. The limit of American power back then was the eyesight of a 20-year-old pilot, looking through a dirty canopy. Victory depended on luck, cloud cover, and sheer, raw bravery. Fast forward 80 years, the USS Gerald R. Ford. On the surface, it looks like the same geometry: a flat deck, a tower, a floating city. But under the skin, we have evolved from burning heavy oil to splitting the atom. We have moved from spotting enemies with binoculars to tracking them with AESA radars that can see into space. But nostalgia doesn't stop kinetic energy. In 1942, a carrier had to worry about slow-moving propeller planes and dumb torpedoes. Today, we live in the era of the anti-ship ballistic missile. We face hypersonic warheads moving at Mach 5. We face swarms of suicide drones that don't know fear. The threats have become faster, smarter, and infinitely more lethal. So why? Why do the strategists at the Pentagon, who know the physics of destruction better than anyone, still build these massive 100,000-ton hulls? Why put 5,000 sailors on a single ship when big usually means dead? Are they holding on to the nostalgia of World War II? No, nostalgia gets you killed. The answer is geometry and industrial capacity. We didn't build the Ford to fight the Battle of Midway again. We built it to manipulate the laws of physics. We built it to project a kill web, so mathematically precise that the enemy cannot calculate a firing solution. If you want to see the blueprints behind the bravado, and you respect the engineering that keeps the world safe, subscribe to Navy Decoded right now. Let's prove that facts matter more than fear. Today, we are cutting through the noise. We are dissecting how the United States Navy bends the rules of physics to survive against impossible odds. Forget the headlines. Do the math. To understand why the carrier strike group operates the way it does, you have to identify the real enemy. The carrier's greatest enemy isn't China. It isn't Russia. The enemy is the Earth. Specifically, the curvature of the Earth. This is the geometric nightmare every tactical officer faces: the radar horizon. Here is the physics constraint. Radar energy travels in straight lines. The Earth is a sphere. Unless you are using over-the-horizon backscatter radar, which has terrible resolution, you are limited by line of sight. This creates a hidden constraint. Imagine a modern anti-ship cruise missile. A smart enemy doesn't fly it at 30,000 feet, where our Spy 6 radars can see it from hundreds of miles away. No, they fly at sea skimming. It hugs the waves at an altitude of maybe 30 feet. At that altitude, the curve of the planet acts as a perfect cloaking device. Put a radar sensor on the tallest mast of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. You are roughly 100 feet above the water. Do the geometry. Your radar horizon is roughly 20 to 30 nautical miles. Beyond that, you are blind. The missile is hiding behind the ocean itself. Now, let's run the velocity variables. If that incoming missile is supersonic, traveling at Mach 3, it covers 30 nautical miles in less than 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That is all the time the crew has. 30 seconds to detect the contact emerging from the horizon. 30 seconds to classify it as a threat. 30 seconds to compute a firing solution. 30 seconds to launch an interceptor and hope the kinetics align. That is the dead zone. In this zone, your billion-dollar technology is useless if it doesn't have the time to compute. If you stay within the constraints of the radar horizon, you lose. Physics does not care about your defense budget. Physics is ruthless. So, what is the solution? Do we build taller ships? Impractical. Do we retreat? Unacceptable. Here is our open loop. How do you neutralize a threat that your own ship cannot physically see? How do you buy time when the enemy is moving faster than the speed of sound? The answer isn't trying to see further with your own eyes. The answer lies in surgically separating the eye from the fist. To solve the dead zone, the United States Navy didn't just build a new weapon, they built a new nervous system. It is called NIFCCA, Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter-Air. Ignore the acronym. Focus on the architecture. In the old days, we used a kill chain. It was linear. Ship A sees target, Ship A shoots target. If Ship A's radar is jammed or blocked by the horizon, Ship A dies. NIFCCA transforms that chain into a kill web. It creates a system of systems. Here's the concept. A destroyer can launch an SM-6 missile at a target its radar cannot see. How? By using data from an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, or an F-35 flying hundreds of miles downrange. This isn't a pilot shouting coordinates over a radio. That is too slow. That is analog. This is fire control quality data. The destroyer borrows the eye of the aircraft to guide its own fist. This is called engage on remote. It breaks the radar horizon constraint. The horizon is no longer 30 miles away. The horizon is wherever our furthest sensor is flying. But a nervous system needs muscle. You need a weapon that can reach out and touch that distant target. Let's look at today's engineering focus, the AIM-174B. The press calls it the gunslinger. I call it a masterpiece of systems integration. The problem was simple. The FA-18 Super Hornet needed more reach to neutralize high-value airborne targets, enemy bombers and AWACS. But long-range missiles are traditionally heavy and cumbersome. The solution? Engineers took the SM-6 missile from a surface ship, a 20-foot monster designed for vertical launch tubes, and integrated it onto the wing of a fighter jet. But here's the engineering challenge. The SM-6 is massive. It weighs nearly 3,300 pounds. That is too heavy for a fighter to carry effectively in a dogfight, so they made a critical engineering trade-off. They removed the Mark 72 solid rocket booster. This is the first stage of the missile, used to get it off the ship's deck. Why remove it? Because the FA-18 is the first stage booster. On a ship, a missile starts at 0 velocity and 0 altitude. It burns massive amounts of fuel just to fight gravity in thick air. On a jet, the missile is launched when the platform is already at 30,000 feet and traveling at Mach 0.8. It starts with massive potential and kinetic energy. And here's where the physics of flight gets interesting. When the pilot fires the AIM-174B, it doesn't fly straight at the target. It executes a lofting profile. The missile immediately climbs. It punches up into near space, altitudes between 80,000 and 100,000 feet. Why go that high? To escape the eternal enemy of speed, friction. At sea level, the atmosphere is thick soup, drag is high, thermal loading is immense. But at 100,000 feet, the air is thin. The drag coefficient drops to near zero. The missile travels in a near vacuum. It is not gliding passively. It is executing kinetic conservation. It preserves its energy over hundreds of miles because it isn't fighting the atmosphere. When it reaches the terminal phase, it dives from the stratosphere. Gravity acts as a force multiplier, converting that potential energy back into velocity, pushing the airframe to Mach 3.5 plus. The result? A functional range in excess of 200 nautical miles. This number is critical. It allows American pilots to sanitize the airspace of enemy eyes, their AWACS and surveillance planes. Before those planes can even detect the carrier strike group, it blinds the enemy. And a blind enemy is a dead enemy.